Hi guys, it's Patrick from Patrick and Friends Music, and today we're going to learn how to read guitar tablature and learn some one-finger chords. Now, guitar tablature, or tabs, is a special way for string instruments with frets, like our guitar, to learn how to read music. So it's just like regular music notation, but instead of having the music notes, what it does is it has numbers and lines to represent our frets and our strings. So if you've seen regular music notation, you kind of get the gist of tabs, right? It just is a way or a vehicle for learning new music. It comes in handy when either you're teaching, you're learning, or you're just trying to show someone how to play something. So we're going to pop up our tabs on the screen and start learning how to read them. So if you see, we have 6 lines. Now they represent the 6 strings of our guitar. The only confusing thing may be that the E string or our low E string on the top of our guitar is our bottom line, and the E string on the bottom of our guitar, or our high E string, is on the top line. Now the reason why they do this is because it's like regular music notation. The lower the note goes, the lower it sounds, and the higher the note is on the music, the higher it sounds. So same thing. The bottom line is E, and then we go A, D, G, E, and E, and the lines go up and up and up, just like our strings. So it may be a little confusing at first because you may think of it as like reverse of how the guitar is, but once you get used to it, you'll have it down. So today we're going to learn something I taught in the first video called the warm-up. In the first video, we did only the E string, but today we're going to learn the E and the B string, and we're going to use our tabs to learn how to play it. So before we do this, just remember, I'll be playing this with all 4 of my fingers. If you're a beginner, you may want to try this exercise with just one finger or your index finger. So as you see it popped up on the screen, we have a set of numbers. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back down 3, 2, 1, 0. We have it on our top line, or our high E string. And then we have the same thing on our B string, the line right below it. So what we're going to do is just read it left to right. So remember, the numbers represent our frets. So if it says 1, that means you're going to play the first fret. If it says 2, second fret, and so on. Just remember, our 0 is our open string. So open means when you play the string without any fingers on the fretboard. So say I play my open E string. That's our 0 on our top line. And say I play my open B string. That's the 0 on the line right below it. So let's try it. Ready? Start on your 0. Go to 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down. 3, 2, 1, 0. Now to the B string. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Awesome. So as you can see, it's a really easy way to pick up either, an exercise like this, or you can even learn how to read music or chords or anything you need to learn on guitar, you can read through tabs. Now, the second thing you'll see with tabs is when notes are stacked on top of each other. So in this exercise we just did with the warm-up, the notes, the numbers were right next to each other. But as you see right now, we have a 0 on our E string and a 0 on our B string. All that means, instead of playing them in a row, just means play them together. So this is going to come in handy when we start to learn our chords, because you'll see that the tabs will be stacked on top of each other. Now, the only thing with tabs is it doesn't show us the rhythm. The rhythm is how long or short you play a note for. So to do that, you really have to listen to the song and get down the rhythm, but the tabs will take care of everything else, the notes, the frets, and the strings. Okay, so now that we learned how to read tabs, let's get to our one-finger chords. So now we're going to start to learn our one-finger chords. And you may be wondering or asking, why are we learning these one-finger chords, not the normal full string, 3-finger, 4-finger chords? The reason why is because I notice with beginners, when they learn those harder chords first, their technique starts to slip. And what happens is it actually becomes more difficult as you go along. Because your technique starts to get worse, the chords that you may seem are easy actually get harder, and it gets frustrating as you go along. So what we're going to do is learning these easier shaped chords. And then when we get to the full chords, we're going to apply the same technique and the same skills, and you'll get those chords down easier and quicker. So before we zoom in, I'm going to point out 2 beginner mistakes to watch out for. First, and most important, is to curve our fingers and use our fingertips on our fretboard. The reason why this is so important, because with chords, we have more than one string playing at a time. If you use flat fingers, what happens is the other strings around it start to mute. You start to get that sound. And we need all of these strings for good tone, and also the chord is made up of multiple notes, and so we need all those notes to sound. So I'll show you an example of this. If I put my first finger on the B string on the first fret, and I try to play my B string and my open E string, sounds good with my finger curved, right? And when I play them together, sounds great. But with flat fingers, right, you hear that muted high E string. We don't want that sound. Now the key is to curve your fingertips and to move your thumb to the back of the neck. So if your thumb is too high, what happens is that it's harder to curve your fingers and you get flat fingers, but as you move your thumb down and you create space between your palm and the bottom of the fretboard or the neck, you're able to curve your fingers. Now, this is hard. You know, as a beginner guitarist, you may find it challenging to curve your fingers and it's gonna hurt a little bit. Just keep working on it a little bit and you'll get it as time goes on. Second important beginner mistake to point out is with strumming. Beginners a lot of times strum too hard and they use too much of the pick. I'll show you an example. Right? Doesn't sound bad, actually sounds kind of cool, right? But what happens is it actually gets harder to switch between our chords with this way. For beginners, what I want you to do is use the tip of the pick, strike the strings quickly and lightly, just like this. You hear that all 6 strings sound like they're being hit at once, instead of the strings getting hit individually. This gives us a better tone, and it also just gives us an easier way to strum up and down. So strumming, speaking of it, if you haven't heard of it, it's when you strike the strings either down or up. So down strum, up strum. Now with our up strums, what's really important is that you don't have to hit all the strings every time. That may sound weird. You may be wondering, you know, it's a chord, I should be hitting all the notes, right? Yes, but say our first chord, which we'll learn today, has 4 strings. On my down strum, I hit all 4, and on my up strum, if I only hit 2 or 3, like I just did there, you still hear all of the notes. That's because with our down strums, we're hitting all the strings, and we're letting them ring out on our up strums. The reason why I tell beginners not to worry about getting all 4 strings is what happens is they start to contort their hand like this. And it gives us bad technique, one, and also you start to hit lower strings that you don't want to hit and are not part of the chord. So we're going to go a little more into up strumming in a second, but just keep those in mind as we learn our chords. So let's zoom in and start learning our first 2 one-finger chords. So our first chord is called G major. So as you see in the tab, we have our open D, G, and B strings. And then what we're gonna do is put our 3rd finger or our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string. So what I want you to try to do is to play that. Awesome. So what I want you to do with each chord to check it is I want you to play each string individually first. So start on your D string and go down, G, B, and then E strings, and then hit the chord together. What this does is it makes sure we have each note. So if I, take my finger off slightly and you hear that muting sound, you know to correct it and then hit your chord. This is actually a great technique for easy chords, advanced chords, expert chords, any chord. If you play through each note, make sure that sounds good, then hit the chord. Okay, so once you got that down, what we're gonna do is add our strumming pattern. So our strumming pattern is going to be down, down, up, and down. So ready? We're gonna go down, down, up, down. Okay, try one more time. Down, down, up, down. Okay, so take your time with that. You'll notice in the up strums, it may be a little challenging. So just a quick trick or tip, you might say, is for the up strums, you don't have to keep your pick completely even, because what happens if you keep your pick completely even is that you might hit the lower strings what you can do is, like I said, only hit the top couple of strings. And what you can do is kind of pull your pick away, right? Pull your pick up and away, and it'll kind of help you prevent you from hitting all of the strings. Okay, so once you got the strumming pattern down on our G major chord, we're gonna start with our second chord, which is our G dominant 7 or G7 chord. Now, if you can get G major down, you can definitely get this down. So as you see in the tab, again, we have our open D, G, and B strings. And then we're gonna take our first finger and put it on the first fret of our high E string. So again, try to play each string individually, and then play it together. Good, so try it again. Each string individually, play it together. Awesome, so once you get that down, then do the same thing, add your strumming pattern. So down, down, up, down. Try it again. Down, down, up, down. All right, awesome. So it's a process to get each chord. So like we did, take G, make sure everything sounds good, then add the strumming pattern. G7, same thing. Make sure each string sounds good, and then add the strumming pattern. Now what we're gonna do is learning how to switch between chords. So this is the biggest challenge when it comes to chords, is getting your hands to be able to move between them quickly, but calmly enough where you're not muting any strings and getting that sound. So what we're gonna do first is just hit the chord, hold it, and switch to the next chord. So what I want you to do is start on the G major chord on your 3rd fret, hit that, hold it, and then go to your G7 1st fret. Good, try it again, go back to G, and now G7. Awesome. So you need to get that down first before you start adding your strumming pattern. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our strumming pattern, but to help us out is we're going to hold our strumming pattern for 4 extra beats. So what we're gonna do is do our normal down, down, up, down, and then we're gonna hold that chord for 4 extra beats. What you're gonna do is count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now a beat, if you're not familiar with that term, it's basically the pulse or kind of the rhythm of the song. So if you hear someone count off 1, 2, 3, 4, and then people start playing, that is the beat of the song, and a lot of times the drummer will keep the beat of the song. So I'll give you an example. We're gonna start on our G major, and we're gonna go down, down, up, down. Then we're gonna hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're gonna switch to our G7 and do the same thing. Down, down, up, down, hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And a key to this is try to keep it the same speed as your strums. So if you go down, down, up, down, keep that for each beat while you count, okay? So let's try it. Start with our G major and go down, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, 4. G7, down, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Awesome. So that extra time just gives you some mental time to sort of figure out your next chord, get prepared for it, and sort of get it down so that we're not struggling with our next chord. So we're just gonna do our last thing is we're gonna go G major, G7, and then we're gonna repeat it back to G major and then back to G7. Okay, so ready? Down, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, 4. G7, down, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, 4. G, down, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, 4. G7, down, down, up, down, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, awesome. So that's gonna take some time, build up to it, follow the steps, and really get down switching between those 2 chords. Okay, so now that we got our first 2 chords down, I want you to take this technique and work on it. Remember, get the chords down individually, hit each individual string, and then hit the chord. Then work on switching between them by holding the chord, then add your strumming pattern, and hold it for 4 extra beats. Once you get this down, check out the second part of this video where we'll be learning some harder 1-finger chords and start playing our chord progression. Now remember, just keep practicing a little bit every day and you'll get it, and I hope to see you there.